Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join me as we discuss this month's view from the Turnbuckle. So, let's talk about Crown Jewel. Why is Shane McMahon the best in the world, Aaron?
Well, you see, Andy, you have this tournament to crown the best wrestler in the world, and realistically, it's only 8 people from WWE, and after Miz is unable to perform, Shane takes his place, and he beats Dolph Ziggler to be crowned the best in the world.
Okay, so what was the point of Shane actually winning? What does it boil down to?
Maybe a heel turn. We need another McMahon that is a heel. That's my only guess. I don't understand why they would do this. I feel you kind of devalue that title. I also feel like you devalue all the other wrestlers that were there. Yeah, you come in at the last minute to win, but it was unnecessary. Shane could have if you're talking about this in kayfabe wise, Shane should have had, somebody else go in, take his place. There were a lot of other people there. He could have had go into that spot. But, either way, I think it was unnecessary. And I think that, the whole ordeal just it makes it look stupid. But at least, they're trying to distance themselves from Crown Jewel anyway. So maybe it's a good thing.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going with it, too, and the fact that you have kind of a clickbait issue there because you have people that did not want to watch the show because of its controversy and everything. But now when you tell them that Shane McMahon, who wasn't even in the tournament, is now the best in the world at wrestling, now they have to go watch it or they have to go see a part of it or something like that. So I think this was just more of a ploy or publicity thing. I could see it playing into the heel turn authority figure. I know they're trying to get huge ratings for SmackDown so that when it goes over to Fox, they can kind of justify their big contract with them.
Shane McMahon winning the World Cup at the time, I think was the dumbest thing. And I still don't think it was a smart move. Like, Shane McMahon's not a full-time wrestler. This whole tournament itself, there were some issues. If you're going to have a World Cup, you should probably have, some non-Americans in the tournament if it's going to be a World Cup. But besides that point, Shane McMahon's not a full-time wrestler, shouldn't be the focus of the tournament, shouldn't have been the winner. However, after what happened at Survivor Series, it kind of makes sense from a Vince McMahon perspective. If you think about them moving to Fox, the best angle they've probably ever done in their history was the authority figure, the heel, versus their big baby face. They're going to turn Shane heel, would be my guess, is that he's going to say he's the only one who can ever get anything done around here as he won the World Cup and then SmackDown got swept at Survivor Series. I expect Paige probably to be fired. They'll probably do this big, McMahon being the heel thing. So, I get it. I don't like it because I think the heel authority figure is dumb and boring and outdated. It was great with Austin and Vince. It really hasn't been that exciting since. Whatever. Crown Jewel was the definition of stale, outdated, overplayed ideas that were 20 years past the mark. So I guess it fits that criteria.
But do you think Shane McMahon could actually be a good heel, though?
No. Shane McMahon is the only one in the family who really is not good at being a heel. It's not his nature. He was fine up against Vince for a little bit, but Shane really he doesn't have what Vince and Stephanie had where they're just naturally hateable. So him being a heel just comes off as annoying. He's a good face. He's good at staying out of the way. He's more likable than those two. So him, and also I don't want the focus on a McMahon. That's what makes SmackDown fun, is that it's not about the authority figure. It's about the wrestlers. Don't do what Raw does. What Raw does sucks. What SmackDown does is focus on the wrestlers. That's interesting. What NXT does is focus on the wrestlers. That's interesting. This is a poor choice.
Speaking of poor choices, HBK and Triple H beat Kane and Undertaker, and of course, Triple H actually hurt himself during the match. But Roger, as a HBK fan, what were your thoughts on the match?
I refuse to acknowledge that this match ever happened, and I defer the rest of my time to Doug.
This match was absolutely horrible, and it proves why some people should just stay away from the ring. When your time is up, it's up. This was a very, very long, slow match that just didn't make sense. And there was a lot of just, I don't want to call them even botches because the whole match was a botch. And the fact that it was your main event, I think even cemented it even more that this is not where these people should be and should not be doing this anymore. It pains me because I love Taker, I love Triple H, love HBK and Kane, but to see him like this, it move on. There's a time where everybody has to move on, and you just cannot get back in the ring.
Aaron, I got a question for you. What was worse, WWE 2K19 or this match?
This match, by far. Yeah, let me say this. Ric Flair coming back to work a few matches for Hogan's, little promotion, and then also in TNA. I think he sullied his legacy a little bit, just a little bit, not like a ton, but a little. And I think HBK looked at that and was like, I don't want to do that. And so he stayed away from the ring for so long. And I think that was the smart move. And so to come back for no real reason, there wasn't something at stake. This wasn't, I don't feel like a blood feud. If it was like,
$2 million. $2 million reasons.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like that's the only reason behind it. So kayfabe wise, not a whole lot going on, and I think that's the thing that hurts. HBK could still move at least somewhat, but the rest of it was just unnecessary. And Taker needs to put his boots up. I mean, he really needs to just call it quits. But the really interesting thing that happened during the match is that Triple H actually tore his pec. I don't know if you saw the pictures, Andy, but it looked bad. So it looks like Triple H could miss this year's WrestleMania, which means no Triple H Batista.
Oh, no Triple H. So sad.
Well, I mean, but no Triple H Batista, which I think people were looking forward to. I mean, does that kind of upset you a little bit?
Yeah.
Who are these people? Who was looking forward to part 4 of this match?
Not me.
I would rather see Batista in like a tag team. I think that he could be good there. I don't know who you pair him with. I don't know if you put him with Randy Orton. I mean, you might as well because Orton's not really doing anything. He's just kind of there.
I think Batista with one of the younger, faster, more agile guys who could have a fantastic match. Batista AJ Styles would be great. Batista versus a handful of NXT guys would be great. Batista Daniel Bryan would be great. Batista as the face versus a heel Daniel Bryan could be an outstanding match.
Oh, there you go.
Batista versus Triple H? 2 guys in their 50s? No. Like Batista versus Hunter was never a great match, 10 years ago? 13, 15 years ago? Did we not just, the match that shall not be named? We just saw what really old guys can't do in the ring. I don't need a worse worker than those guys. Look, Batista was many things, but he was not a great in-ring technician. And now you're going to ask him and Triple H to put on a 35-minute match? Because Hunter's not going to have a quick match. So, yeah, who are these people looking forward to this garbage? Like, no. Well,
the Smarks aren't, of course. But, there are other people.
But the thing is, Daniel Bryan could taunt Batista from here on until WrestleMania, and he could say, Batista, just pick anyone. It doesn't matter who you pick, and I'll bring my guy or whatever. And Daniel Bryan can have his tag team partner. It could be pretty much anyone in SmackDown. And then you could have Batista and probably Orton go against each other. I mean, you could do that, and the whole storyline could revolve around that Daniel Bryan stole his spotlight when he came back.
And also, remember, he tapped Batista at WrestleMania 30. So they actually have a history. Like, he basically stole his spot, quote unquote, because Batista won the Rumble, then Daniel got inserted, and then tapped him out, and then Batista never got his rematch. There's actually a storyline there that you could go with.
And you could work him either heel or face. That's the best part. But I think Batista, you'd have to have him as a face. That way you save the WWE title, and it's not defended, which stinks, but you could almost take insert, I don't know, anyone with another title, then you could save those titles from being defended, having a singles match with those. Throw them in a tag match. I think that actually could work. But anyway, so speaking of tag matches, let's talk about Survivor Series. So, Aaron, did Raw actually sweep, or was someone asleep at the wheel? Because technically, it was 6-1.
Yeah, 6-1, right? But they say 6-0 because it was the pre-show. It was, it wasn't on the main card or whatever. And look, at the end of the day, everybody's there watching the show. It's essentially it's one show. It's not a dark match like prior to pay-per-view and the network and everything. So whatever. I mean, they can call it what they will. I do think that this was a very big missed opportunity, though. We all had picked, I think, 4 and 3, like in favor of Raw or SmackDown. And the reason why is because you expect SmackDown to get some wins. I think that this hurts SmackDown because on SmackDown, this past Tuesday, they didn't talk really that much about it. I feel like they had said, "Oh yeah, we're the one team that won. You guys lost though." It wasn't I feel like Shane McMahon should have come out with that fire and brimstone. Like, look, he just won the World Cup, so he has a little bit of heat because he's the best in the world. Why didn't he come out and dress down everyone on SmackDown? Why didn't he say, "You guys are losers. You couldn't win. You guys, the only team that won was the tag teams, and it was only the New Day. The New Day's the only ones that are worth a damn, and everybody else is terrible. Everyone here sucks because you guys could not beat your Raw counterparts." Why didn't he do that? If they are moving to a story, okay, that's fine. You want to do the 6-0. No story is set up. Nothing is going on. It is a one shot, like in a comic book, and they're not going to talk about it again, essentially, right? Until next Survivor Series. But they're not doing anything with this story. They're not doing anything with it. And I think that's what really hurts the most. And so you give somebody like a Shinsuke Nakamura, who's been really pushed aside, who could have used a really big win against Seth Rollins, especially with Dean Ambrose easily interfering, which people were expecting. Nope, that didn't happen. You could have had the women defeat the other, the SmackDown women defeat the Raw women because they seem more cohesive as a unit. That would have made sense. But no, instead they decided, no, we're going to go a completely different route. And we're going to just say SmackDown's a crappy show. Oh, by the way, Fox, thank you very much for all that money. This is a crappy show, by the way.
Which, when you think about it, is kind of just thinking about it now. What if the whole point of this is so then SmackDown wins Survivor Series next year? Do you think that's even possible?
It is, of course, and they might be trying to build up to that. But that's a really long-term booking, and I don't think that they are. I don't think they have the capacity for that. It's sick.
I'm sorry. Did you mention long-term booking? The only guy they long-term book for isn't here right now, so I can 100% confirm they ain't thinking about next year.
That is true. I was say even Daniel Bryan said they couldn't book him and Miz properly, and yeah, he was right.
That was horrible. That was a wasted moment. WWE, I guess, I think they expect their fans to have the memories of goldfishes. And going into Survivor Series, there were several things that upset me. It's just that aspect of how Becky and Charlotte had a huge feud going into this or before this, and now all of a sudden, well, I hold the mantle to you now. You can do it. You can do it, Charlotte, because we're best friends again or not, or I don't know. But it just seems silly. I mean, they are literally writing stuff as it goes out on television. I had heard that the Raw Tag Team Survivor Series people were actually supposed to win the pre-show match, but somebody just forgot to tell the booking person of that's what they were doing. And by the time they got to him to tell them, they were already on with the match and nearly over. So that's why they had to say it was a pre-show match and it didn't count. This seemed like a silly, stupid idea to have Raw sweep just because of that fact that this is supposed to be going to SmackDown. If anything, I would have had SmackDown sweep so that Fox would even have that feeling of, oh, we are getting a good show. They're going to promote this show. This is going to be great. Now, I don't know what their thinking is, and I'm sure that it is something that they are just coming up with it as they go because so many, and I will say this, unfortunately for them, they have had too many injuries this year and unannounced or unplannable things happen that, okay, now we really do have to change this, or nope, this injury happened. Now we really have to go this way with it. So it is unfortunate, but whenever it seems like, okay, we have a decent choice and the wrong choice, which way should we go? Well, let's go this way. Well, that's not even one of the choices. Yeah, but I'm sure it'll work out. No, it's really not. I can only assume that they all think we have Alzheimer's.
Not so sure the man in charge doesn't have Alzheimer's. Maybe he just legitimately forgot. I was very, very perplexed by this because SmackDown is moving to Fox. You would think you would want to sell the product to the people. Like the network executives were there. So they're watching this show from a suite or wherever they're at, and they're watching the brand. And I know obviously there's scripts and everything, but the brand that you are essentially telling people to tune in and watch on Fox that you gave them a ton of money for just got made to look like total punks. Like that is not how you sell your product and tell investors, here's what you're getting, a pile of garbage. Here you go. Good thing you didn't buy Raw from USA. Like that's unbelievably stupid. On top of that, the people on SmackDown not only needed the victories more, it would have made sense more. Charlotte should have probably not been in that match against Rousey. You put someone like Asuka in there so that when Asuka turns heel, cool. A frustrated Asuka who wasn't left off the SummerSlam card and totally would have made more sense than Charlotte randomly snapping. I still don't get that. Did they ever follow up with it? I have no idea. Brock beating Bryan, we all expected that. That was a fine match. Had no problem with that. Why did Rollins beat Nakamura and where was Ambrose? Like, what was this? That made no sense. And then the women's match. So Nia Jax is going to get rewarded for being the sloppy, most dangerous and worthless wrestler in the women's division. We're going to push her because she can't throw a punch. Like she's hurt a decent amount of people. She's terrible. Stop pretending like she has value. Shayna Baszler does everything that her character does 10 times better with talent and doesn't have to actually hurt people. She makes it look like she hurts people. This is wrestling, not boxing. Apparently Nia Jax is only good at boxing. Why? All of these decisions made so little sense that it was like Survivor Series felt like a chore to watch. I was entertained by about 2 matches, and most of it was like, this is so bad. I'm not even going to get into the fact that Shane McMahon was the final survivor of that match because that's what happened last year. So whatever, I expected that. But I can't even begin to understand the rationale behind having Raw essentially sweep SmackDown as you're sending them to a new brand. Unbelievably stupid. This is stupid for even WWE stupid.
And that's saying a lot. And real quick, just to Roger's point about, Ambrose, obviously I said it and he said it. It's not bad to be predictable in certain areas. That would have furthered along the feud. And the fact, and realistically, if you wanted to go that route, you could say then the only loss on Raw was Rollins. And then Stephanie can talk about how Rollins is terrible, and can't get anything done. And that can then set up their match. That's not that hard. And it helps out Nakamura. Nakamura needs help. Who has he beaten WWE? Honestly, like on the main roster.
Same as Zayn.
Who has he beat?
Jeff Hardy.
Jeff Hardy. That is the biggest person he has beaten.
With help from Randy Orton.
How hard would it be? How hard would it be for him to beat Rollins? That was a match I was looking forward to. And the fact that they kind of ruined it, it just shows you how much they think of him, how little they think of him.
Where was AJ?
Well, at least AJ, I get. There was a storyline behind that. I'm less angry about that. Ambrose and Rollins have a feud going on. Ambrose wasn't attacked and taken out. He had no excuse to not be there. And that was the perfect reason to give a struggling Nakamura a victory. Like that, like AJ interfering doesn't make sense because it's not like Brock needs the help. Like if anything,
I'm not saying he has to interfere, but he's not even on the pay-per-view.
Well, I mean, the man has been such a workhorse. I'm not that mad about him getting a break finally. And Bryan did kind of stomp his head in 5 days before or something like that. Like I can understand that. Did Rollins attack Ambrose backstage magically? Well, wait, nope. He showed up on Monday, so clearly that wasn't it. That just made no sense at all.
Yeah. So now that we're done with sort of done with Survivor Series, let's talk about the WWE title. So something kind of surprising happened on SmackDown, and AJ Styles went against Daniel Bryan. And Roger, what happened there?
I guess kind of the unthinkable happened, and I guess I shouldn't say this anymore because they're at least not friends. But part of me has trust issues. As a fan, I was behind and I was with Daniel Bryan, and he turned. And you know what? To be quite honest, I'm happy about this. Daniel Bryan's character kind of needed something different. Him being the yes guy was great when he had his fantastic run. But they didn't do anything with him, and he was starting to get a little bit stale. He wasn't progressing. They butchered the Miz feud. I don't know what in the world is going on with that. They took something that was fantastically built by them and turned it into a total divas thing. And then they had a 2-minute roll up. So it was like the best part about that feud was basically the comedy segment with him and AJ. So Bryan turned heel, and you know what? I like it. He was frustrated. He really showed that aggressive side. He made AJ Styles the first guy to win and lose the SmackDown Championship on SmackDown, which is something I'm very surprised about. Good for Bryan. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm a little curious though about like where Brian as a heel goes as champion next. Assuming he gets past AJ on the rematch, they don't have a lot of SmackDown faces because so many people have kind of turned. So I don't know who he defends against next. Like I am very curious to see what they do because they're Joe's a heel, Orton's a heel. I guess you could go Mysterio, but I mean you just don't have a lot on that face side. It's gonna be interesting to see where they go from there.
Well, you got the Miz. Miz is going face now, it seems. So you still have the Miz with the wins over Daniel Bryan, and you could still bring that up and say that he needs a title shot since he beat Bryan. But I want to see Bryan versus Nakamura now in a low blow match because I seriously feel so bad for AJ Styles. It's like, how are we going to have him lose this match? How about a low blow? Like, do they not want him to have kids anymore? I mean, I know
He's already
liner.
Well, remember, he has one kid because Joe is the other two kids.
Joe's
daddy.
now the dad.
He has
Speaking
4
of
kids,
Joe,
right?
Joe went out in a minute. Oh, that made me it was so horrible. I understand why they had Bryan win it. They don't want AJ to lose to Lesnar twice. But it just seemed, I don't know, out of again, I go back to the idea that they don't know what they're doing. They're just doing everything last minute, and it's like, oh wait, we're gonna have Lesnar versus AJ Styles again. Well, okay, let's just put the title on Bryan because no one will expect Bryan to win, and Lesnar can win, and then everything's great. But where do you go from that? I don't know. It's obviously they're gonna have the feud continue. We'll probably get to see what they're gonna do the TLC match, which something probably will happen, shenanigans will happen, and we'll probably get to see AJ versus Bryan at the Royal Rumble, which I am excited for, because hopefully that is the pillar of their matches. So
Yeah, and I definitely agree with both of you. I think Bryan could do some wonders here. WWE definitely cooled his jets when he came back. They could have really had him just kind of rise to the top, and they kind of kept him in the middle or even the lower middle area. I mean, he had his feud with Big Cass that was just completely unnecessary. That was just a waste of both their times. So, I think that they could do wonders with him, and the loss against Lesnar, I don't think hurt him. And, when he goes against AJ at TLC, I think that could be a very interesting match that they could have, because this will be a little bit more than what they were having prior. And even at Royal Rumble, if they extend the feud there, which I hope they don't, but if they did, we could see some very interesting things going on there too. And I like Daniel Bryan's more aggressive style, and so I think it works pretty well with him. He does fight from underneath, so as a heel fighting from underneath, I think that it could be kind of fun.
I'm sorry, did I hear you right? Did you say you hope they don't extend it to Rumble?
Yeah, I hope that they, because
this feud will extend to WrestleMania.
That's the thing, right? Because it's WWE, so you think about AJ and Nakamura and AJ and Joe. They're like, oh, well, why don't we just put AJ in a 4-month feud with the same person? Really don't want that to happen.
Oh, I thought you were joking. You're serious?
No, I'm serious. Yeah, no, because they've already had 2 matches on SmackDown. Now, granted, those were a little bit further apart, but they had one, last week, 2 weeks ago. They're going to have their pay-per-view match. And so I hope that they have them drift apart, and you can have them come back together. That's fine, but drift them apart. You don't want to see 6 matches in a row. It devalues it.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Of course, yes, he did lose to Lesnar at Survivor Series. That was very expected to happen.
It was a good match, though. It was a very.
I'll give you that. In all seriousness, it was a good match, because I expected it to be bad, and it surprised after watching. I was like, wow, that they both looked pretty good in that. So it happened.
Bryan taunting Lesnar was about the funniest thing I've seen. It was kind of like a little puppy taunting a wolf. Like, yeah, you're gonna die, but man, you're going out with some style. Like, this is really funny because he just did everything that you would think you tell a heel not to do, or anyone. Like, why would you tip this man off? And he got destroyed for it, and it was entertaining. Like, I like heel Bryan. It was fun.
So, Braun Strowman loses his Universal title shot, and then he wants it back. But he has to go through Corbin. What happens there, Aaron?
Yeah, so as we alluded to, of course, Lesnar took on Bryan, in the world title, fight. And so, Lesnar beat Braun Strowman at the Crown Jewel thanks to Corbin. Corbin came in, attacked him. And so Strowman said, I want Corbin now. I want Lesnar, and then I want Corbin. I want Lesnar. So it looks like we're going to have Strowman versus Corbin at TLC, and we're going to have Strowman versus Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. That could be interesting because if they do like a cage match, that'd be kind of fun to see. If they do something where they try to, make it so it's a literal just one-on-one, there's no shenanigans, that could be a fun match. Now, Strowman has been getting a lot of pops. Unfortunately, they did kind of a heel turn, and then they made him back to be a face. I don't know exactly what they're trying to do with him, because essentially, right? Like, and we don't want that. We don't want it to be we have no idea what's going on with this person. We want consistency. That's important when you have these types of characters. So with Strowman, it looks like he's going to just dominate Corbin at TLC. And then after that, it's on to Lesnar. But he's going to be out, though, for a little bit because he is having, I believe it was shoulder or elbow surgery.
Elbow.
So, yeah. So he's hurt, but it supposedly is a very quick turnaround. So was written off TV, and he'll be back, in a few weeks.
No, I pretty much agree with all that. It is frustrating again to know that there is not even short-term booking by WWE. The fact that they pushed him as such a heel and put him with Ziggler and McIntyre, and now all of a sudden it's like, but now he's got to go up against Corbin and Lesnar, so now he's got to be a face again. So I mean, it's Big Show Part 2.
I actually feel bad for Strowman. Braun Strowman, post SummerSlam of last year, has probably had one of the worst drop-offs of character development and interesting booking that I've seen in quite some time. Going into that SummerSlam match, he had been booked very well. They were having him do really fun stuff. He was doing awesome spots. They were booking him and protecting him perfect. Then he had the dud against Lesnar. All right, not so bad. And then after that, they have done the weirdest and dumbest things with him, whether it was that awful decision to have him win the tag team titles at WrestleMania with a 9-year-old or whatever his age. That was stupid and a total waste of his WrestleMania, coming out party, what it should have been. That he wins the Greatest Royal Rumble to no value whatsoever. Then he wins Money in the Bank. You're like, cool, his character's fixed. Oh, wait, he turned heel for no good reason when face versus face for those two works just fine, and then loses that title shot thanks to Lesnar. Then he gets attacked. I mean, it's just bad decision after bad decision. I'm no longer really interested in his feuds. I don't care. He doesn't do anything fun anymore. Like his booking, the whole Kevin Owens feud was so terrible. He basically was bullying and just picking on and tormenting Owens, and you were just like, why is he doing? I mean, this is. I don't know where it goes from here, but they've taken a guy who at one point was maybe the most over face in the company. Like if you watch the Elimination Chamber, when he gets beat, the crowd erupts and boos, and when he slams Roman, they cheer. To now, he's big. He'll always get enough of his pops, but he's not interesting to me anymore. Like I think the crowd's moved on, and there's a certain point when you wait too long to pull the trigger, people are just not going to care when he finally wins that title. And I think we've passed the point. People are just not going to care that much.
And that's a sad thing to say there. But so far, WWE has done one thing right with Becky Lynch. She's now getting massive pops, and I'm impressed. But something happened to her, though, on Raw. Roger, what was that?
Unfortunately, Becky Lynch was injured by the irresistible injury machine known as Nia Jax, when she threw a straight right hand, not an elbow, not a bat, just literally punched her to the point that I think it was a concussion and orbital damage. I mean, it was if you've seen the video, it was terrible. It was reckless. It was dangerous. Look, it made for a fantastic photo of Becky standing there with her arms open and blood coming down her face, or as she calls it, Irish war paint. That was a really cool visual. Unfortunately, it cost us a fantastic feud with Ronda. And, look, we know what we know about CTE. Anytime someone gets a concussion, it's bad. So that whole situation really sucks. Hopefully, Becky will continue to, ascend and maybe get that WrestleMania match. But, man, that injury was bad. It was very bad and unnecessary. There should be some consequences for that.
And I agree with you, Roger, that there should be some consequences. And I think SummerSlam or Survivor Series proved that there are not. You could hear the boos for Nia. The fan support there for Becky is unbelievable. It's and rightfully deserved. And WWE is finally listening to it, and I think reacting to it. But the problem is because Nia is getting all this heel heat, she's going to get pushed too. So she's going to get more and more publicity from it, and she now named her right hand the face breaker. It's sad that this bad incident is now going to give Nia a push, and it's going to give her a what's the word I'm looking for?
An undeserved push.
Not an undeserved push, but personality. There you go. Because she never had that before. She never really was a personality. She was a big girl who was big. That's it. Oh, she's getting bullied by Alexa Bliss, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to feel bad for her. But now she's big showing it too. But now all of a sudden she does this horrible thing, and she's going to get pushed, and it's not deserved. It's not her time. It's never going to be her time. Nor do I think it ever should be again. But it makes sense to push it, to publicize it, and put her in the title reign with Ronda, and hopefully. Where I thought and I was hoping that she would be tapped out right away as kind of a punishment for what she did. Here she is now, the lone survivor of the Women's Survivor Series match. And if anything, this makes Becky also look strong too, because she's come out of this flying colors, and I can't wait to see what happens. There's even rumors now. At first, it came out that Becky Lynch was going to face Ronda at Royal Rumble, which I got really excited for. But because of the popularity of Becky Lynch, they are even thinking about pushing it all the way back to WrestleMania. So I'm a little mad about that, because I would have loved to see that match at the Royal Rumble live. But hopefully they'll do it at Royal Rumble, and then maybe have four horsewomen versus four horsewomen at WrestleMania, which I've been hoping for a long time. But that's all I got for that one.
Yeah, Nia Jax is she shouldn't be in the ring. If anything else, you need to send her back to NXT. That's what I would do. I think that she doesn't know how to not injure people, and it just goes to show. But I think the really big story here, though, is what Becky Lynch has been able to do, not just on social media, but even just to get the fans behind her. She was supposed to be a heel. She quote unquote turned on Charlotte, and people were cheering her, and they're like, oh, it's the Brooklyn crowd, that's going to happen. No, it wasn't. It was because people like Becky. Becky is very likable, and she goes from being a very nice girl to being this last kicker, essentially, right? She goes and she's being a little bit more heelish, and people are getting behind it, and then she says, you guys turned on me, and everybody's like, no, we didn't, we love you, ha, and they're cheering for her. And so, WWE has no idea what they're doing. And that's the thing, not to, talk about Roman Reigns, but that was the thing, right? They didn't get that, Roman Reigns was getting booed. Well, maybe we should turn him, And same thing with Becky is she was getting cheered when she was supposed to be booed. So why not keep her getting cheered, And I think that they've kind of done that a little bit. She has a little bit of a heel vibe, but WWE is acknowledging good things about her, which I think that's the proper thing to do. So, I think Becky Lynch is on track to have an amazing Royal Rumble and potentially an amazing WrestleMania if they do it correctly, but it is the E. And so that worries me.
It is the E. Well, that's true. We don't know what's going on with any of the titles. So Aaron, do you know, I know Nakamura's the U.S. champ. I can always think of that off the top of my head, but I don't really know what direction they're going with him. So what are they doing with him and the Rollins? I mean, I guess that's the only one I can say, oh, they're doing something with that. But the tag titles, I'm like, what?
So, and this, like I had said about Nakamura getting the win over Rollins, that would have really helped propel him. And then he talks about how, I was able to defeat Raw's superstar. I was the lone survivor, on the main show. You can sit there and be a heel about that. I mean, obviously Nakamura, the English is second language, so it's may not come across as well, but you still could do something along those lines. And realistically, when you look at Rollins, there doesn't need to be an IC title there. You know, him and Dean Ambrose's feud isn't over the IC title. It's a blood feud. You know, it's a brother feud. The IC title needs to be far away from them. Doesn't need to be anywhere near them. The only time it would need to be near them is if they had a fight about that, you know, that caused that rift. The IC title has nothing to do with it. Get it off of them. Have somebody else go for it, you know? I mean, give that to, I don't know, Bobby Lashley or something. You know, that's what I would do. U.S. title.
Elias.
Yeah, Elias. Yeah, Elias. Great. Yeah. The U.S. title, though, needs to you know, if Nakamura's going to have it, which I'm fine with him having it, give him a real feud. You know, he's had that title now for like 120 days. Yeah, do a quick search. It's like 120 days. He's had that title for a long time.
It doesn't feel. I mean, I guess he has had it, but I don't know why. I just never thought about it.
Yeah, because it's not a focus. They don't talk about it. It's not a big deal. There are so many people that he can have a feud with that they aren't doing that. And so you have Seth Rollins, who has a title that doesn't need it, and then you have Nakamura, who has a title, and they're doing nothing with him. You have the tag titles, which, what are you doing with that? You know, you had McIntyre and Ziggler lose it to Rollins and Ambrose, and then he immediately loses it to AOP. And so AOP is going to just run through the tag team division, apparently. And then over on SmackDown, you have the Bar that has it. And they, you know, beat the New Day for it. New Day's probably not going to get the title back, so it's going to go to probably the Usos next. But it just feels like when you don't have a whole lot going on with those titles, you kind of diminish them, especially since there are two. There should only be the one. And if the mid-card titles, if this is what you're doing with it, then you only need one as well. You know, I feel like the titles are just, they're not being used properly, and it's hurting the undercard. And that's why some of the matches that we see at the dual branded pay-per-views aren't as good as they could be.
No, I agree with you, Aaron, and I just think that I think the tag titles in general are just Vince doesn't care about the tag team division. And going back to what we've been saying for a long time is they should have tag teams on one brand, women wrestling on the other, because there's just not enough feuds going around, or at least good feuds going around. And whether you have the IC on one or the US on another, or just you have one of them and put the 205 people on one of the brands, I don't know. It seems silly. It seems everything's in limbo. But I still think this also goes back to we don't know what we're doing, and we're just planning things day to day.
Yeah, I mean, I echo you guys' thoughts. This lack of, and I actually don't mind SmackDown's tag division too much, but man, really everything else. The United States Championship is such an afterthought. The Intercontinental Championship is literally an afterthought. I can't remember actually the last time Rollins defended it on pay-per-view. Maybe when he beat Ziggler. I have no idea. I think that was maybe SummerSlam.
Well, they won it, and then the Shield reformed.
Yeah, and then they were, you know, it's just Ambrose and Rollins isn't a feud for the IC title. It just isn't. It just doesn't make any sense. And they should have never won the tag titles. You know, Raw has no direction. SmackDown's starting to have its own issues with lack of direction. The main roster is bad. Like it not to be super negative, but the creative on the main roster is just not very well done. And it you know, going back to a previous point, Becky Lynch basically got over in spite of creative. That was clearly done to get Charlotte over. And they unfortunately kind of sacrificed Charlotte's popularity by doing that, because they turned her into the female Roman Reigns. And Becky simply got over in spite of that. That shouldn't happen. Creative is there to support you. They're supposed to help you. They're supposed to give you good storylines and get us engaged. And instead, we end up liking wrestlers who are able to simply rise above, not a glass ceiling, basically like a tank filled with sewage, because that's basically all that creative seems to dish out. It is just garbage. It is. I can't tell you how many good storylines I've seen on the main roster. It's so bad that they really, really be thankful that they have NXT, because I think a lot of fans would probably have stopped watching WWE product as a whole if it wasn't for the fact that Triple H's brand is fantastic.
All right, so let's thank a sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or podcaster, or are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click script installs are free stability, and hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo. It's the easiest, and if you use a special coupon code, off the mark, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what are you going to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out Section86.com and look for the banner at the top to say big on items from WWEshop.com. We got to talk about TakeOver. I mean, that's like the biggest thing I think that actually happened over the weekend. So, Roger, what did you think about the NXT title match?
It was good. Like, Velveteen has had a reputation, and Morrow mentioned this, of really elevating his performance in takeover matches. This was a really, really fun match. Even though I had no belief that Ciampa was going to lose, there was at least 2 spots where I went, Velveteen might steal this title. Especially when he hit the Purple Rainmaker, I went, this could be it. And then he went for it on the outside, and I went, oh, maybe. And it was so fun. It was really, really well done with Ciampa's paranoid character and Velveteen's over the top character. I loved it. It was so well done. I'm really, really enjoying Velveteen, with a bit of hesitation of he has no chance of success in the main roster. So I'm really going to enjoy him down here, because when he gets called up, it is lights out, and he will probably be the Fallen for Grace one year. I would bet a lot of money on that they just don't get his character. But down in NXT, he gets the freedom, and they wrestle just the right amount of matches that they don't overexpose him. Well booked match. I enjoyed both guys. Ciampa, I don't need to explain. He's the best heel in the business. But Velveteen, for being so young, is so good, and I'm really impressed with him.
This match definitely reminded me of a New Japan style match in that aspect, that you really didn't know who was going to win. I agree with. I mean, we all picked Ciampa to win, and I thought out of all of the matches, that was the only one I was confident in what I picked. But there were several times in that match I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to go with the Velveteen. This is amazing. And they wouldn't be wrong. They absolutely would not have been wrong had they let Velveteen win that title. It wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense for, because Ciampa's got a couple feuds that he's going to go on to do after this. But, God, I could see Velveteen holding that title and running the company, and nobody would have a problem with it. Very, very good match between those two. They got the time that they needed, and both of them performed wonderfully. It's almost even said that this wasn't a main event of the show even.
Yeah, I definitely echo your guys' thoughts. When you have this many near falls in a match, and they are ones that aren't just it's a signature move. It was a devastating move. This could be it. And when you're sitting there watching that, and you're like, your heart skips a beat because you're like, oh, he kicked out. That's a good match. I mean, this was, I don't know if I'd say top 5, but this was a top 10 match this year, I think. And Velveteen Dream is tremendous down here. And if he's this good now, and Patrick is so young that to see what he could do when he gets older, it could be a lot. And I really hope that they do something with him. I hope that they have a plan. We had talked about a few months ago, what goes wrong with NXT call-ups. And the thing that we kind of zeroed in on was that they don't have like a 6-month storyline built up, instead that they just go, oh yeah, we'll call them up and it'll be exciting for, the first 2 weeks, and then they'll go away. We're sanity, right? So if they do it right, 6-month storyline, that's all you need to do to get Velveteen Dream going, because that kid is fantastic.
I echo everyone's thoughts too. I mean, it was just a great match overall, and there's multiple times, yes, where you're like, oh crap, they're giving it to him. One, I was like, oh, they're giving it to him, and I stood up, and I'm like, holy crap, it's still going on. So the other thing I also want to point out that was not advertised on the card, Riddle took on Ono, and that was like 7 seconds. But anyways, so that happened. Anyways, so Gargano took on Aleister Black in a match that I still think it was great, but like I was still a little surprised. I thought that there'd be a little bit of shenanigans happening there, but there wasn't. But overall, both guys I think looked good. Aaron, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought they both looked really good. I had Gargano winning this because I thought that maybe, him turning heel, it would be a kind of a culmination and it made sense for me to turn heel, because obviously I was able to take down Aleister Black. And they looked like they were kind of go that route, and very similar to what I said about the world title match. There were a lot of near falls here. There was a lot of really great storytelling. I think that Gargano, face or heel, is one of the best in the business right now. I mean, he's top 5 in WWE, I would say. With his facial expressions and the writing that they have going for him. I mean, he is fantastic. He really is. And to see what Aleister Black, the build up, the package that they show, it makes you, if you're not a wrestling fan, if you're a casual fan, I think you watch this and you go, okay, I get why people enjoy this. I get it. And it makes sense. Tremendous match. Kudos to both performers. And I hopefully, maybe at the NXT show and at Royal Rumble, honestly, I would almost want to see the triple threat match that they were going to show, or if Velveteen Dream is added to it and do a fatal 4-way, that'd be kind of cool too.
This, for me, I was a little surprised Gargano didn't do a little bit more heelish stuff to kind of continue his, I guess, descent into heel. But good match. I had Black winning, so but I could see Gargano winning. I kind of wouldn't mind if this one would have been something that they couldn't continue. If it was a double count out or something along those lines where neither of them won and they could continue their feud a little bit more, because I think this, I don't know, I don't want to say rushed a little bit, but I think that this still has potential to be a continuing feud and go on from here, still fighting. And I'd be okay with it. It's one of the few times that I'd be okay with it. But if they would have just done a toss-up draw or some, maybe even a DQ finish, just to help Gargano move into more of his heel role. But overall, still decent match. It kind of, again, any other almost NXT, this could be your match of the night. But there was 2 of them, if not 3, that overshadowed it.
Yeah, I mean, this match would be the best match on any main roster card without question, and this could have main evented a decent amount of takeovers. So this was a really good match. Johnny Gargano is a much better heel than I ever would have imagined. I had never seen him work a heel style, but very similar to Daniel Bryan, very similar to Sami Zayn, he is really good at being a jerk. Like, to the point where you're like, God, I kind of want him to get his face kicked in, which Johnny Gargano was the most over guy since Daniel Bryan back in the day, 6 months ago. And that's a testament to both good writing and a good performance, that he was so annoying that I was like, yeah, I kind of want to see you get your face punched in. And the thing is that I had him lose because I thought it made more sense of, like, he was a desperate guy and he made poor choices. I think it's more forgivable if he takes the loss here than if he wins and then continues his descent into, Ciampa land. Like, yeah, he messed up. He got desperate. He really wanted to get his hands on Ciampa, so he took out Black. He got kicked in the face for it. Maybe he learns from it. Personally, I don't think this feud is necessarily done. I think Black is going to move on to Ciampa, and I think Gargano is going to move on somewhere else. What I'm interested in is that, like, to me, Gargano has been fantastic. But where do they go with it? Is he going to go into a darker path? Are they going to really bring Candice into this? Do you do something crazy like Ciampa going, hey, you need me. You can't do anything without me, and do a heel DIY? Like, there's a lot of different directions they can go with this. That would be really fun to see. So, match was great. Enjoyed the storytelling. One of my favorite spots was when I think it was Gargano did like the Black mask setup, where he kind of put Black's head on his face and lifted him up. And I'm just like, wow. And the crowd absolutely booed him. Like, that was the thing. People still love Gargano. It's not like he can't wrestle, but he played his character so well that crowd was so disgusted with what he had done that when Black finally hit him with Black mask, huge cheer. Like, well done. Well done.
Now we have to talk about War Games. War Games, it was 4v4. We had the War Raiders, Ricochet, and Pete Dunne taking on Undisputed Era. Now, Roger, is there anything negative you can say about this match?
No, this match was fantastic. This was also War Games. Like, last year to me didn't feel like War Games. It felt like some WWE-ized version of War Games. That weird 3-on-3-on-3 just didn't make sense. There wasn't really a blood feud going into it. Like War Games is supposed to be one of those ones, this is where you settle the score. And that's what this felt like this year. This was the Undisputed Era has been basically running roughshod over everyone. And it was Pete Dunne they've been feuding with, I feel like, since TakeOver Louisiana. They've been feuding with Ricochet since TakeOver Louisiana. The War Raiders attacked them. Like this just felt like the culmination. And good Lord, the match was just so fun. I've never seen what Bobby Fish did where he locked the other guy in the cage. That was really cool. The spots were really well done. I mean, look, Ricochet obviously goes without saying. He pulled up that, I don't even know what you call that, double backflip.
I think it was a
60.
I think it was a 900 if I'm correct.
You could not pay me enough money to jump backwards and try to do 2 rotations off of a cage. I don't care how many people are catching me. And he did it with ease. Like, he did not look like someone who couldn't have done that again. That's ridiculous. That just match was so good that you just wonder. It's like, I can't wait till next year, because the Undisputed Era are almost to the point where they're so good, I'm afraid of what happens to them if they come up. Because right now, they're like what I always wanted the NWO to be. They're both a dominant faction, but they're still entertaining in the ring. That, like, I'm always enjoying their segments. When they ruin big matches, you know something great's going to come of it later. Like when they ruined Dunn versus Ricochet. I'm fine with this being the main event. I think the right team went over. I'm glad the Undisputed Era took a loss because it helps them kind of regroup and all these other guys go. I'm looking forward to see where they go from here. Man, Adam Cole was over. In case you didn't know, Adam Cole is really freaking over. Like, hey, I know that you really wanted Shawn Michaels to come back. You got the next Shawn Michaels. He's right there. This guy is that good.
And Roger, you got to help me remember this. What was the spot that one of the War Raiders did that I'm pretty sure everyone was like, holy crap?
Which one?
Oh, the handspring. The handspring. The
You talking about the handspring back elbow when he did the Tajiri?
Yes.
That was one of those things when I saw it and I was like, wait, I like rewound it. I was like, no, he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. Like, that's the thing is that, like, all 8 guys carried their weight. Like, it was. This is long-term storytelling done well. This is what I want in wrestling. This is what I want from the WWE. Apply this philosophy everywhere, and I would be so much happier.
And you want to talk about 2 guys? Like, there are 2 guys that I will say did not carry their weight, but because of the situation they were in, I get it. Dunn and Fish. Dunn, Fish just coming off knee surgery. And also Dunn, we find out later he has a broken bone in his foot. So the fact they still tore it up, and yeah, they were the last 2 guys, I still was happy with them. You were right. No one was sat back there and was phoning it in, and that's the positive part.
I think they carried their weight from a storytelling perspective, and I think that was important. With all the in-ring talent you had, they brought the real story element to it that I would say they carried their weight just fine. They just did it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and they set up the Ricochet Dunn, both of them getting the pinfall over Adam Cole, and then both of them celebrating on the top of the cage. I mean, I'm only hoping that is a rematch that they show at the Royal Rumble or before the Royal Rumble. I'm more excited, I think, for the NXT pay-per-view, the next takeover, than the Royal Rumble pay-per-view itself. Maybe not necessarily the Royal Rumble match, but the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Definitely. You saw what Ricochet can do. You can see the talent that Dunn has, the Undisputed, the War Raiders, all these young, talented people that you give them a storyline, it almost seems like they just said, you guys go have fun in there and do what you got to do. And these guys perform every night. Amazing things. It really makes me wish that they just make NXT a third brand and keep the people on NXT in NXT, and they can, travel around as NXT and just be their own low brand. And if you want, you can have Survivor Series be NXT versus SmackDown versus Raw. There's plenty of storylines and everything else that can go that can work with it, but make NXT their own brand.
No, I echo both your guys' thoughts, and it really goes to show that, even though we all have our feelings on Triple H, what he's been able to accomplish with NXT is amazing. To see what these people are able to accomplish under the WWE banner. And I can't wait to see them for Royal Rumble this next year, and then Survivor Series the following year. You know, we're going to see a couple of their pay-per-views live, which is going to be absolutely amazing.
I am looking forward to it. It'll be lots of fun, and it's nice that Chicago, is really close. So
Let me ask you guys a question, because we've had this discussion before. I think this show was good enough that I think this was in the discussion for one of the best NXT pay-per-views ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, even the match we didn't really talk about, the women's title match, was still well done storyline wise, and showcased both their talents very, very much so.
So that means what? This is the fifth. Is this the fifth takeover this year or the fourth?
Fifth.
This is the fifth this year. Louisiana was also one of the best shows we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Of their 5 shows, they've delivered 2 5-star pay-per-views. That's ridiculous. And the other ones weren't slouches, but these 2 in particular were arguably 2 of the top 3 to 5 shows in NXT history. That's insane. For them to have, because the talent who was there at NXT Dallas, all of them are gone. This is completely new built-up talent, and yet, because no one's there. Everyone that we saw live is gone. When we go see in 2-3 months, this is all a whole new crew, and yet they're putting out just unbelievable stuff. And for the first time, I think this is the only time it's been true in NXT. Every one of their divisions is stacked. Like usually they had a strength in one of the divisions, and then the rest of them were okay. This is the first time that I think they've stacked heavyweight, tag team, and women's, and all the women's is probably the weakest of the 3, but there's still really good talent in there. Like I don't know, I can't pronounce her name and I can't remember it, but the girl came out and did the moonsault in jeans.
Dakota Kai, or no, the new one from the Mae Young Classic. I can't.
Yeah, like I want to say like Io Shirai or something like that.
Yeah.
She's a Japanese star. She did a ridiculous Asai moonsault, like in jeans, and just hit it perfectly. And you're just like, oh, she's fantastic. Like NXT is unbelievably loaded, and there's more in the pipeline. Riddle and who's the Keith Lee. I mean, they just have talent just coming and coming. Like I don't know how long this can last, because I feel like we were talking about we probably see the best of NXT. Boy, were we wrong. And I mean, it's like I don't even know when this train stops, because they're going to call everybody up and they'll probably find somebody else, and we'll probably be talking a year and a half about like that was amazing.
Let's just keep saying just keep saying that over and over again, so then we can look back. Like we'll just keep saying it just over and over again, so it keeps happening that way. But you're right. That might have been the best we saw at NXT, 2 years ago. But then all of a sudden, it slowly starts to come back, and everything makes sense. I think they're doing a great job. I think, Triple H, I think he's doing a great job with NXT. And now it's almost like I almost want NXT to have another brand, but it's only where you have guys who are not being used, you put them there, have a 30-minute show or something like that once a month or something along those lines. But
I think that's the amazing thing for NXT is you think about the people that are even being rumored to come over to WWE, and they're going to start off in NXT. And it's like, at this point, where? You have so much talent in NXT right now that some of the people aren't even being used.
EC3.
Right. He wasn't even on this pay-per-view.
Mustache Mountain wasn't on the pay-per-view.
Right. You have talent that everybody would love to see that just unfortunately is not on the pay-per-view.
I guess it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you have Riddle's just come in, and you have all these other people that are still on the talent or on the roster that I would love to see. And I mean, this is an amazing problem for him. It is a good problem to have. And I don't want to see them get called up. I do not want to see Undisputed Era be called up and then turn into the next Sanity or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sanity's
Aaron, I have to ask you this question, and this is specifically for you. How good does NXT have to be for Triple H to redeem himself in your eyes? Like, what would it take for you to say Triple H is the greatest superstar of all time?
Oh, never. That will never happen. He'd have to
even if NXT was putting out 5-star classics for 10 years straight.
I would think, oh wow, Triple H is an amazing booker. That's what I would say. I'd say he's an amazing booker.
Come on.
That is all I would say.
Would he be a five-time booker?
So what you're saying is you won't bow to the king. You won't call him the King of Kings.
Yeah. My feelings about Triple H are just I cannot stand that guy, and the fact that the King of Kings, to me, that's not just the kayfabe character. That is, I feel like a little bit of the ego coming out, for that. And I think that he puts himself as being one of the best of all time, and he's not. But with that said, if I'm talking about a booker, I think that he might be. Vince was able to do a lot and be able to create a lot. And so Triple H is kind of building off of what Vince had already done. But if I'm looking at this from like what Vince was doing in the 80s versus what Triple H is doing now, I think that Triple H is doing a better job because he's building stars from the NXT brand that are going to be able to carry WWE, as a whole on Raw and on SmackDown. Because you take a person like Adam Cole, who they can market, they can do an awful lot with him, or a guy like Johnny Gargano, who can be that under, the guy who fights from underneath, or Tommaso Ciampa, who is the vicious heel. So for me, Triple H is maybe even a better booker than Vince, but I don't think that redeems him though for the other stuff.
My question comes though that on that note is, who has he developed that isn't already an indie star?
Velveteen Dream.
Right. I mean, and that's the obvious one.
No, he was
one.
He was in the Indies first. Then he went to Tough Enough. So technically, Triple
But he
H,
wasn't.
But he really wasn't
an
indie star.
he was not a big indie star.
like,
I'll give you that. Yeah.
He wasn't
they signed
any indie
Adam
star.
Cole,
Yeah.
it was a big deal. Like people knew who Adam Cole was when he came into NXT. People know. Some people, at least, knew who Ricochet was before he came into NXT. Some people knew who Johnny Wrestling was and Ciampa was before they came into NXT. Now, I'll say I wasn't too big into Ciampa before NXT or not knowing, but at least I knew or heard of Johnny Wrestling or Johnny Gargano. And I mean, obviously, with what he's done in New Japan and also Lucha Underground, Ricochet, been a big fan of his ever since. But I mean, you got to think of that, and there's still rumors about a lot of people leaving New Japan to come over to NXT or the WWE. That's where I'm saying that talent pool is always going to be there. I think for NXT, whether it be in New Japan or Ring of Honor or other places for them to pull from.
I would say you have to give him credit that he basically built that women's division. Really, the only big name he signed was Asuka. Sasha, Bailey, Charlotte had flair, but she was not a star. And that women's division is basically his creation, and he created that. So none of them were indie stars besides, I guess you can say Kairi Sane and Asuka, but that's it. Like the rest of them were all homegrown, built characters who then got elevated and should have done better on the main roster, but I can't blame him for that. The rest of it, I will give you that.
His wife invented women's wrestling, though.
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
Aaron, I do have a question for you though, Aaron. What if Triple H was going up against Samoa Joe and Scott Steiner?
Who has what chance to win?
Yeah,
I need to know. I need to know what are the
though.
chances of you liking Triple H more because of what he's done then?
But the thing is, they say all men are created equal, but you look at Senior Joe and you see that statement is not true. Okay.
Hey,
so
one more thing I think we have to point out, because it is a weird little anomaly that I've noticed going all the way back to where we started the show. All of you picked Braun Strowman. This is the third time that all of you have picked against Brock Lesnar and been wrong. At what point do y'all just accept that there are universal truths in life? And Brock Lesnar winning is basically one of them. Even I made the mistake of picking against Brock at WrestleMania, and we saw how that worked out. Brock Lesnar wins. Like, this is just what we know. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Brock Lesnar winning is one of them. When are y'all going to learn? Brock goes over.
Because eventually, sometime he's got to lose.
I'll
somewhere.
I'll just start saying Lesnar. Like, it doesn't matter who he's facing. Lesnar versus 100 guys. Doesn't matter. Lesnar. Some way, somehow, he'll pull it out and he'll win.
So Lesnar or Ditka?
Ooh, well, hold on a second. I gotta think about that one.
No, I
Lesnar.
didn't. Dick.
Yeah,
Lesnar.
Dicka. Trick question. Dicka is Lesnar.
And that's all the time we have for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you can follow the show at OffMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and any of the podcasts. And I want to thank all our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to this show. And for Roger Cave, Doug Hahn, and Aaron Hughes, I am Andrew Hughes. And until next time, we'll see you in the ring.